active duty special agents. It is the only dedicated voice for the nearly 13,000 active FBI special agents, the vast majority of whom are members of the FBIAA. With us today are FBIAA President Tom O'Connor and National Executive Board members Brian O'Hare and John Fagan. All are active agents, but they are speaking today only in their capacity as leaders in the association. We also have with us today Dee Martin and Josh Zive here in the front row. They're with Bracewell, and they serve as outside counsel to FBIAA. After opening statements, we will take questions from those in the room and then open the line for questions for the reporters on the phone. Please note that we're only here to discuss the shutdown in our report. We will not discuss other issues, including ongoing investigations. We will get to as many questions as possible in today's press conference. If we do not get to your question during the session, feel free to follow up with me at media@fbiaa.org. My contact information is also included on the media advisory you received. Tom O'Connor will now get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning. My name is Tom O'Connor. I am the president of the FBI Agents Association. As Paul said, the FBIAA has over 14,000 active, duty, and retired special agent members. And nearly 90% of all active FBI special agents are members of the FBI Agents Association. I'm here with Brian O'Hare to my right, John Fagan to my left, from the FBIAA National Executive Board. While we are all active agents, we are speaking to you here today on our personal time and in our capacity as volunteer leaders of the FBI Agents Association. As special agents, we dedicate our lives to protecting our country from criminals and terrorists who threaten our safety, economy, and way of life. We are honored to serve and protect the public. I first want to make one point clear. Agents were working cases yesterday, they are working cases today, and they will be working cases tomorrow. They are doing so without pay and under conditions that grow more challenging every day. Yesterday was the 31st day of the ongoing partial government shutdown. And this Friday, nearly 13,000 special agents of the FBI and thousands of professional support employees will for the second time not receive a paycheck because of the lapse in funding to the FBI. That is 1 month, 4 weeks, 30 days without pay. Last night, my wife, who is also an agent and is also my boss, we delivered food to our office for those in need. The FBI family comes together in times of crisis. It is truly sad that we must resort to this because we are being let down by our elected officials. On January 10th, 2019, the FBIAA delivered a petition to elected leaders in Washington warning that the failure to fund FBI could undermine the important work being done by FBI special agents. This warning came signed by FBI Agents Association representatives from every field office across the United States. As we said then, this is not about politics for special agents. For special agents, financial security is national security. We are here today to provide more details about how the government shutdown has affected agents in the field. We have collected accounts from our special agent members, and they have shared those with us on a voluntary and anonymous basis, and are making these accounts available to the public today in our report, Voices from the Field, FBI Agents' Accounts of Real Consequences of the Government Shutdown. The report shows that the concerns we raised 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, are becoming a reality, and makes it absolutely clear that our leaders in Washington must fund the FBI immediately. As the FBI Agents Association warned in our petition, While special agents remain on the job and will continue on the job, to be effective, the operations of the FBI require funding. Built on the experiences of agents around the country who are protecting our country, Voices from the Field paints a vivid and troubling picture of the cost of the ongoing shutdown. First, the failure to fund the FBI undermines essential FBI operations such as those designated to combat crimes against children, drug and gang crimes, and terrorism. I think the report speaks for itself. I'm just going to read a few excerpts from the words of FBI agents on the street. From an agent in the Western United States, quote, "Victims for domestic minor sex trafficking cases are not receiving the attention they need and/or visits and counseling services. These are investigations that cross state lines. Local victims in charged federal cases have been requested to fly in, prep for trial, and will not receive their witness fees and per diem monies that they are deemed their right. However, criminal trials will move forward. Their testimony is expected, and yet we have no way to pay for their expenses," end quote. From an agent in central U.S., quote, "I have been working a long-term MS-13 investigation for over 3 years. We have indicted 23 MS-13 gang members for racketeering, murder in aid of racketeering, extortion, money laundering, and weapons offenses. Since the shutdown, I have not had a Spanish speaker in the division. We have several Spanish-speaking informants. We are only able to communicate using a 3-way call with a linguist in another division," end quote. From an agent in the Western U.S., quote, "As a Joint Terrorism Task Force coordinator, the inability to pay confidential human sources has had a detrimental effect on our counterterrorism investigations and operations," end quote. From an agent in central U.S., quote, "Not being able to pay confidential human sources risks losing them and the information they provide forever. It is not a switch that we can turn on and off. Every day that the shutdown continues, the operational impediments created by the shutdown get worse and damage our counterterrorism and counterintelligence efforts around the globe," end quote. Second, as you know, special agents join the FBI because of a commitment to serve our country, defend the Constitution, and protect the American people. But the failure to fund the FBI is creating a long-term problem for the Bureau by making it more difficult to recruit and retain skilled and experienced special agents. I'll read 2 examples. From an agent in the northeastern U.S., quote, "I have heard from some of the younger employees, both agents and support, that if this shutdown is a prolonged matter, they have said they will find work elsewhere. The problem is that the FBI spends a lot of money and manpower in recruiting, conducting backgrounds, and training new employees. So the FBI has more invested in them than they have invested in the government. I can't imagine attracting new, qualified applicants to the FBI as a result of the shutdown. These folks will go elsewhere too, and we will get stuck with subpar applicants," end quote. From an agent in the Western U.S., quote, "I have been an agent for 24 years. The last 11 years, my wife of 28 years has battled terminal cancer. And for the first time in my career, we have had to ask for assistance from friends and family to make ends meet. I am proud to be an agent, proud to serve my country, and willingly to sacrifice my life in defense of the people and the Constitution. But to have my family placed in a financial situation we are currently facing due to partisan politics is disgusting to me as a government employee and a citizen," end quote. In conclusion, our leaders must listen to the voices of the men and women who are committed to protecting our country. There is no time for delay. Fund the FBI now. The men and women telling these stories in Voices from the Field are sharing this information for one reason. The failure to fund the FBI is making it more difficult for us to do our jobs, to protect the people of our country from criminals and terrorists. This is not about politics or partisanship. As I have said, special agents are working and are committed to protecting our country, but we need funding to do our work. In conclusion, we ask that our leaders listen to Voices from the Field. Protect our national security by providing financial security for the men and women of the FBI. Fund the FBI now. And with that, we will take questions.
Right here.
Mr. O'Connor, Rebecca from the CGT and Charity Group. Your justifications for holding a news conference like this are entirely understandable given the conditions you mentioned that people going without pay. But given the current political climate, how concerned are you that airing your concerns like this might antagonize the relationship between, say, the FBI and the President?
The FBI and the FBI Agents Association are not political. The statement that we read today has no politics in it. We want to fund the FBI so we can do our jobs to the fullest extent and protect the people of the United States. And in doing that, FBI agents and employees should be paid to do their job.
Right here. And can you identify yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Charlie Clark with Government Executive. Is there any increased risk of Hatch Act violations and water cooler conversations where people are bound to discuss some of the reasons for the shutdown?
As I stated, we're here on our personal time, on leave, and we're acting only in the position of FBI Agents Association, which is a non-governmental organization representing the 14,000 members of the FBI Agents Association. We will continue to do so in an effort to make the people in the United States know the facts and our government leaders know the facts so that we can open the government, fully fund the FBI, and get ourselves back to work.
Hi, Andy Trier with CBS. Tom, can you give us, if all 13,000 FBI agents are working, can you explain to us how cases are being impacted and give us some examples?
That's great, thank you. So there are a small number of FBI agents that are on furlough, which means that they're not allowed to come to work, along with FBI support employees. The vast majority of FBI agents and those in the field are all working, and so are the support employees in the field working. We are putting every effort we can into forwarding our cases. It comes down to, on December 21st, we had a government and an FBI that was funded to a level. We continue to do our jobs. We continue to do as much operations as we can, and we're spending money in doing that. Nothing is replacing that money into the FBI's budget, so all of our operations have to take a hit. And the agents and support employees will continue to do the very best we possibly can with what we have, but that is getting much more difficult day by day.
What kind of stuff is being impacted?
As I stated in the Voices from the Field, you'll see that there are many topics that are covered. The source payments, travel, training, these types of things. Stuff that we do on a daily basis to forward our investigative efforts. Much of it is being slowed or curtailed, and as we go further, we see that happening more and more every day.
Right here.
Hi, David Shortell with CNN. I know you've shared the petition with the Vice President's office and the Speaker's office. Have you shared this report with anyone from the government, and what's been the reception from government officials, people with stakeholders in this shutdown fight for what the FBI Agents Association has been saying?
So thanks for the question. We have spoken to the Speaker's office staff and the Vice President's office staff. We shared with them our original petition that was on the 10th of January, and we will be sharing this Voices from the Field document with them. and it will be given to every one of the members on the Hill.
And have they been receptive to what you guys are saying?
The people we've met with have been very receptive. They've listened, and all we can do is voice our opinions and tell them the facts about what is in this document.
I'm going to pass it over. Anya. That's fine. That's fine. We'll get everybody. Will get a chance.
I'm Drew Petromel with Next Star Media Group. You said that you were an FBI agent and that your wife was also an FBI agent. I wonder if you or if other gentlemen up there could share how the shutdown has personally impacted any of you.
I'll let the other agents also speak, but every family in the FBI has mortgages, car payments, bills that come in at the end of the month, and you have to pay those. Try doing that without a paycheck. Nothing has gone into any of our personal checkbooks, and we still have to make payments on our daily life, right? So it affects everyone. It affects some people more, and our support employees, the newer agents, these people who are just coming into this job. It makes a huge effect on families. No one can work without a paycheck, right? You can't sustain. The government can't sustain, and we can't sustain for a month. Try it.
Isabel Jacoby, Swiss Broadcasting. I'm kind of amazed that you have to go public like that. Is your leadership not heard in Washington?
So the FBI Agents Association is a non-government entity, and we don't normally sit up here. Tom O'Connor is not a spokesman that sits in front of press cameras, and this is not the norm, right? But what we're dealing with is not normal also. The FBI has to be funded for us to do our jobs fully. Agents and support employees need to be paid for the work that they're doing. That's just common sense to me.
Hi, good morning. Kevin Johnson with USA Today. Are you getting any reports or has money for housing allowances for those agents overseas, has that ceased?
So in the Voices from the Field, there is a quote from some overseas members who are talking about the lack of funding coming into them and how it's affecting them also. So yes, it's across the board. If you're an FBI employee, you are not getting paid, period.
You had Bruce Leshan from Channel 9 here in town. You had the quote from the person doing the FBI and the MS-13 investigation. And it just struck me, I mean, much of this debate is over securing the border and fighting MS-13. Do you think that there's, you know, it's squishy in where you're squishing the balloon here, trying to put pressure to build a wall, that you're ending up with exactly the result that you don't want because it's more difficult to fight MS-13?
So as I've stated from the beginning, the FBI Agents Association, our role in this has no politics whatsoever. We want the government to be funded. We want the FBI to be funded so that we can completely and fully work all of our investigations, no matter what they are. Major cases and cases that are a lower level, right? So every case that has a victim in it is important to us. So we want the government and the FBI funded so we can work all of our cases and forward those, put bad guys in jail, and do our job.
So you can't address specifically, are you having a harder time fighting MS-13 because of the shutdown?
Lack of funding is showing up in all investigations. It doesn't delineate one type of investigation versus another. You need funds to run the FBI, period.
Bree, why don't we go to reporters on the phone? You can open the line.
If you would like to ask a question, please press star and 1 on your touch-tone phone. You can remove yourself from the question queue by pressing the pound key. Again, that is star and 1.
While we're doing
a moment to allow questions to queue.
While we're doing that, we have one more question from the room.
Hi there, Luke Barr with ABC. Is it just your paychecks that are not getting filled, or is it benefits? Is it retirement, et cetera?
So as we go forward, we're told our medical insurance will continue, but people who have gotten the vision and dental plans, that will cease at the end, starting Friday with the next paycheck. Sadly, those people who retired from the FBI after the 21st of December will not be receiving retirement checks. And what normally happens is that a person will keep their annual leave and use that annual leave converted to pay for the period it takes to get your processed retirement. During a shutdown, employees cannot use annual leave. So now we have people who have retired will not be getting a retirement check because it's not being processed because those people are on furlough in other government agencies as well as the FBI, and they can't use their annual leave. So literally, you put in 20 plus years in an organization where you risk your life day in, day out to protect the American people, and when you retire, you get that until the government shutdown ends. Tell me how that's right.
Okay, let's take a.
Can I just ask one very
Let's take. Go ahead.
Just very quick clarification. You mentioned it's nothing new, Mr. O'Connor. Is this unprecedented for you and your colleagues to be sitting here at an event like this during the government shutdown?
We did it during the sequestration.
We did it during sequestration in 2013, but for something like, no, this is not the norm for the FBI agencies. We're not a press organization. We're FBI agents that want to do our job. Our association assists with college funds for FBI agents who die, and we send their kids to college. We spent about $8 million sending college students that have from children who have from agents that have passed away. We have a members assistance fund where we help agents in times of financial need, family illness, this type of stuff. Those needs are still going on every day, except those people don't get a paycheck to even help themselves.
Let's take the first question from the phone. Bree?
Our first question will come from Jessica Schneider with CNN. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you guys for having this briefing and letting us know about the issues the agents are facing on the ground. I'm wondering if there has been any comment or reaction or anything from the FBI itself saying that maybe there is a reallocation of funds to be had, or maybe, as we've heard from some other agencies, sometimes funds have popped up from other places. Is there anything being done within to quell some of these issues?
FBI headquarters and executive management has been working diligently to find ways to spread our funding out as best they possibly can. It's a Herculean task to take a pot of money and spread it out across thousands of investigations and efforts that the FBI does on a daily basis. And so I applaud them for the work they've done. They only have a finite amount of funds that have been allocated to the FBI. We spend those every day conducting the operations and investigations that we do. That's gonna stop. It has to stop. It's slowed already, as you've heard, and it's affecting operations, and it's affecting the people within the FBI.
Bree, next question.
Our next question will come from Michael Valera with WUSA-TV. Please go ahead.
Hey there, Tom. Hey, everybody. You just spoke with my colleague, Bruce Leshin from WSA, who's in the audience. I wanted to ask you, though, the latest class from Quantico graduated 2 weeks ago. You said that they understandably were having some issues coming back to their families with no pay. Is the shutdown impacting the class that's being trained at Quantico right now?
That's a great question, and another sad answer, and that is that FBI agents that entered into training and the analysts and other support employees that entered into training at Quantico at the beginning of this shutdown have never received a paycheck from the FBI. These people leave other jobs, many times taking a pay cut to join government service. They leave their families at home, and they come to Quantico, and they spend months at training. How long can you leave your family at home with your spouse and children, taking care of your family while you're away doing your job, becoming an FBI agent, and you have no money to pay for mortgage, food, medical, anything that you need to normally run your family? Those brand new agents at an entry level are getting nothing and have gotten nothing.
Okay, Bree, next question.
Our next question will come from Marissa Schultz with the New York Times. I apologize, the New York Post. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for doing this phone call. Just wanted to ask a New York specific question. Do you have any insight from your special agents what sort of impact this shutdown has had on counterterrorism operations in New York, including those partnerships with the NYPD?
So the FBI is the lead investigative agency when it comes to counterterrorism. We cannot do that without our partners in local, state, and federal agencies. New York City Police Department being one of the largest, I would say the largest partner that we have. The funding in New York City and in Washington, D.C., and in Cleveland is the same funding. The government has not funded the FBI, and that is across the United States.
Next question, Bree.
Our next question will come from Ryan Riley, Huffington Post. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I was wondering if you could expand on outside employment, what sort of the restrictions on that, if agents have been able to work any outside jobs, and what sort of jobs, if so, they've been working.
So outside employment for an FBI agent is a difficult task to begin with. There are requirements that have to be met. Agents can't go out and get any job that has any influence on their position. There is an amount which is limited to how much they can make. FBI headquarters, we have been engaged in conversations with headquarters in an effort to loosen up the amount of money that can be made, because originally it was only $3,000, which if you're trying to raise your family and you get an outside job approved, which is difficult to begin with, the $3,000 limit doesn't really do you much. So headquarters has been very good in working with us to try and make it easier for agents to earn some money on the outside. But realistically, FBI agents should not have to go work at a store stocking shelves because they can't feed their families on their government job. They're still working 50-plus hours a week. So when are they going to find time to go get that second job? It's ridiculous.
Bree, next question.
Our next question will come from Megan Pratt from Cheddar. And as a reminder, please press star and 1 to ask a question today. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you so much. I want to echo the other reporters on the conference to thank you for giving us this insight. I think it's really important. And I'd like to ask you how you expect the ongoing government shutdown to impact recruitment. We've talked about the recruits in Quantico and the new agents who haven't been paid, but do you expect that this type of instability in funding, this lack of appropriations, is going to affect the FBI's ability to recruit new agents moving forward when they see this type of uncertainty in their pay as maybe more routine or more likely an option?
The answer to that is yes. And clearly, people are looking to come into the FBI as a way of giving back to their community and their country. But in doing that, you also have to be able to support a family. And the insecurity financially is a matter of national security. We have to go through rigorous background investigations to become an FBI agent. Annually, agents have to do a financial disclosure. Every dollar that is attributed to us has to be documented. And if there are any defaults on loans, any missed payments, your credit report history is extremely important, because it goes towards your ability to have a security clearance. This lack of funding to the FBI is hurting operations, It is hurting personnel across the board, and it is going to hurt our recruitment, and it is going to hurt our retention. FBI agents that are currently on board have opportunities to go into the private sector and double or triple their current salaries. You tell me what you would do if your family needed security financially and you're not getting it from the federal government.
Thank you. Any more questions from the room? Here, why don't we go over here? She has asked one, and then we'll go back to you.
Thank you. Simone Perez with Vice News. I wanted to see if you could clarify the $3,000 limit, that's annually. And I'm also curious if you could say kind of point blank if the country is less safe now than it was before the shutdown started.
Okay, so the $3,000 limit is something that entering into this for about the first 2 weeks of the shutdown, that was what was already on the table for FBI agents and other employees within the FBI. Headquarters, as I said, has worked with us on this topic and on all these topics in trying to help our membership, and they have raised that.
Tom, is it annually or is it?
Oh, it is annually. It's $3,000 a month annually, yeah. So that's been raised. Yeah.
And if the country is less safe now?
So the voices from the field that we're giving out to the public and to you today shows how the FBI operations has been hindered by the lack of funding. I will leave that question up to you to answer.
Hi, John Brain, TRT World. If the shutdown continues, what is the worst case scenario in terms of public safety?
The FBI needs to be fully funded so that we can do our jobs, stop terrorist attacks, prevent criminal activity, arrest bad guys. That's what we do. We need to do that to keep this country safe.
Next question.
Emiliano Boss, Swiss Public Radio. Please, a kind of a follow-up. Would you say that FBI, due to the lack of funds, is not able at the moment to guarantee the safety of the American citizens?
FBI agents go to work every day, whether we're paid or whether we're fully funded. FBI agents will do this job to their very, very best to protect the American people. We need the support of the federal government to give us the resources to make that the very best we possibly can do. But I guarantee you, FBI agents are going to be on the street, working and doing everything they possibly can to protect the people of the United States.
Hi, Caroline Patricus with ABC7. On a personal level and between your colleagues, how has this impacted morale? And if it keeps up the way that it's going now, what could possibly happen with morale? Are things kind of different?
Well, once again, as is stated in the voices from the field, you see the impact operationally. FBI agents want to do our job. We want to have the best investigations we possibly can to bring them to the U.S. Attorney's Office, work with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and prosecute people for the crimes that have been committed. We want to prevent crimes that haven't taken place yet.
Bruce, you had one more.
Hey, Bruce Leshane again from Channel 9. You started in on your personal story, and you were talking about going out, and I didn't quite understand the story about with your wife going out to deliver. If you could go into that, and then you mentioned maybe getting some of your colleagues to talk about the personal impact that this has had. If you all could take a couple of minutes and do that, that would be really valuable.
Right. FBI field offices across the country have taken it upon themselves to assist our employees that are unable to fulfill their shopping, bringing food home to their families by setting up space in the FBI office that people can go to get food supplies and have a meal at home with their family and kids. My wife is an FBI special agent. She's in charge of our evidence response team, and so she's my boss on the team. She put out an email to her neighborhood bunco and book club, and we delivered an entire truckload back of our vehicle yesterday to the office from those citizens that took it upon themselves to bring food to our house. Phenomenal. Also, I can't believe it's happening.
This would have been in what community?
Virginia. I don't if one of these guys wants to.
I'll just say one thing. It's very, very frustrating to have to put up with this because there's enough roadblocks doing the job to begin with, and they're not getting paid for it. That it just makes it 10 times worse. And it's also frustrating on my personal level. If I have to tell my 11-year-old we can't go play laser tag this weekend because I got to put gas in the car, that's extremely frustrating.
My wife is also a special agent. She is also the senior team leader on the evidence response team, and I'm one of the members. So
it's not the same woman.
Not the same woman.
Thank God.
And so we went from a dual income family to nothing income family. And just, as an example, I have a son who has been waiting to get braces. And we were going to do that in January, and we've had to put that off. It's an expense that we can't justify now until we're receiving pay again.
And so these stories from the three of us, we're three senior FBI agents. We've all been in 20 years plus. The hardest hit are our new employees, our support employees, people who are not putting off the braces and this kind of stuff, but can't put food on the table. And I never thought I would say that about a person who's working for the federal government, but that's the truth.
Okay, thank you, everybody. The report's available on the FBIA's website at fbiaa.org, or just talk to me or one of my colleagues, and we could send you a link. Tom's going to stick around for a little while and happy to answer some other questions. But thank you. The press conference is over. Thanks, Bree.